creatures from the edge of oblivion, captured by people who believe their next breath would be their last. We are wired to survive, to fight, but what happens when the fight is over? When the dark consumes you and all you have left is a few seconds of battery life and a final, desperate message of love? These are the harrowing true accounts of three people who faced a certainty of death, who recorded their final goodbyes, and who, against all odds, lived to press play. It's November 29th, 2012. Paula Lane, 46, and her boyfriend, Rod Clifton, are driving through the mountains of California, heading to dinner. It should be a simple trip, but Rod decides on a detour. A quick stop at Burnside Lake, a favorite summertime camping spot. He wants to test the off-roading capability of his new Jeep. This seemingly innocent decision, the pursuit of a minor thrill, was the moment their life story turned into a death trap. The initial path was fine, but as they reached the lake around 7 p.m., the snow grew deeper, softer, and more treacherous. They tried to turn around, and that's when the Jeep's front left tire swallowed the snow, sinking them, stuck, completely immobile. For hours they struggled, shoving, digging, trying everything. But the real enemy was just arriving. The temperature plummeted. They were dressed for a Californian fall, jeans and light jackets. They had no sleeping bags, no camping gear, and most critically, no food, no water, and no cell service. The next day, November 30th, the region was slammed by an intense, unforgiving snowstorm. Rod knew they couldn't stay. He made the gut-wrenching decision to leave Paula, promising to trek the 6 miles to the highway and return with help in a few hours. He wrapped his shoes in plastic bags, disappearing into the white silence. Paula watched him go, clinging to his promise. The hours stretched into days. The storm didn't just linger, it raged. The snow piled up, burying the Jeep, trapping Paula in a metal tomb. Her only provisions, a small bag of fresh green tomatoes Rod's mother had given them. 1 small tomato a day was all the sustenance she allowed herself. Her hope dwindled into a cold, terrifying clarity. She was going to die here. And worst of all, her twin 11-year-old boys would never know her final thoughts. On Sunday morning, December 1st, surrounded by over 6 feet of snow, she turned on her camera. With a voice worn down by fear and exhaustion, she recorded her final goodbye.
I'm on my voice. It is now Sunday morning, and the snow has not let up. It's about 6.5 feet deep, I think. I'm held up here in the Jeep. I'm eating a green tomato a day. I'm eating as much snow as I can remember to, and trying to stay warm. I just want to come home. Rod left Friday morning. Today's Sunday. Rod left Friday morning to go get help and didn't come back. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he got hypothermia and frostbite, or if some critter got him. But I can't walk out in this because I don't have the clothing. I just want to see my babies and my mom. I'm so sorry that this happened. But as soon as the sun comes out, I'm going to have to try to make it. It's 7 miles and 6 feet of snow. I don't think I'm going to do so well, but nobody's ever going to find me here at Burnside Lake.
She explained her situation, detailing the 6 feet of snow and the small ration of green tomatoes. Then she addressed her children, her voice breaking with grief and apology. I just want to see my babies and my mom. I'm so sorry that just happened. She had prepared herself for the end, but the recording wasn't her final act. The storm broke on December 2nd, giving her a brief, burning surge of will. She decided to save herself, using masking tape and tissue to fashion makeshift gloves and socks. Paula began a new, desperate journey. She couldn't walk. The snow was too deep. She had to crawl. Weakened by days of near starvation, she was coughing up blood and struggling to stay conscious when she found shelter in a spider-infested hollow tree for 2 more nights. Then, a devastating yet motivating discovery. Crawling forward on December 5th, Paula came across the grim remains of Rod, covered in snow. He had succumbed to hypothermia, having failed to reach help. This heartbreak served a purpose. It gave her the final, cold clarity that she could not share his fate. She kept crawling. Meanwhile, Paula's brother Gary had a gut feeling, a connection to the past. He knew the couple often visited Burnside Lake. On December 5th, he drove to the area, ignoring the closed gate, and finally found his sister. She was on the road, crawling, on the verge of death. She was rescued just 15 minutes before hypothermia would have claimed her. Paula Lane survived a week in a frozen grave, fueled by green tomatoes and the determination to see her children again. There are roads built for thrill seekers, and then there is the tail of the dragon. 11 miles, 318 relentless curves. It is a legendary yet lethal stretch of Route 129, and it was here on October 15th, 2016, that 41-year-old experienced biker Kevin Diepenbrock's world was shattered. Kevin was riding with a friend, Philip. Low visibility combined with the road's tight, winding path proved catastrophic. When Philip braked suddenly, Kevin had no time to react. He slammed into his friend, sending both men and their bikes soaring over the edge, plummeting 100 feet down into a dense, rocky ravine. Philip died instantly. Kevin, miraculously, survived. But survival was only the prelude to the true nightmare. Kevin was alive, but completely immobile. The worst part, he could hear them. Hundreds of cars and motorcycles drove past him on the road above. The roar of engines, a cruel, mocking soundtrack to his helplessness. He tried to scream, but his injuries, later found to include 2 punctured lungs and 17 fractures in his ribs, left him with no breath, no voice. He was trapped, mere feet from safety, yet invisible. There was no cell signal. He was cut off, a ghost in the trees. As time wore on, the pain became a pulsing, consuming thing. With every passing hour, the hope of rescue faded, replaced by the certainty of a slow, agonizing death by shock, internal bleeding, or dehydration. Exhausting all other options, Kevin accepted his fate. He found the strength to prop up his phone and record his final testament.
Hey everybody. That's all I can really say. About 10:30 this morning. Been laying here ever since. Just want to say I love you guys. Sorry it's being stupid, but you know that's what I do. Mom, Dad, love you. Courtney, love you. Kurt and Marnie, Karen, Matt, love you guys. Take care. Take care of the puppies for me too. Give Kimber and Ruger lots of love for me. And Rocco, Notch, and Kimber. Rocco, Rocco, Notch, and Tango. I miss you guys.
He began simply, his voice thick with pain. Hey everybody, that's all I can really say. He expressed his unconditional love to his parents, his wife, and his children. It was a heart-wrenching goodbye.
Hey, 7 o'clock. Trying to use my flashlight to wave somebody down. Hey, I'm at 10% body, 10% battery. It's 11 o'clock. I love you. I don't know what to say.
Tinged with a devastating self-awareness. Sorry I was being stupid, but you know that's what I do. He even dedicated a portion of the message to his dogs, Kimber, Ruger, Rocco, Notch, and Tango. As his cognitive function began to slip due to his injuries and dehydration, the sun set. Now darkness joined the pain. He tried to stay awake, using his flashlight to wave down any passing vehicle. He was at 10% battery life, his body at 10% function. He recorded again. I'm at 10% body, 10% of battery. It's 11 o'clock. I love you. I don't know what to say. He never stopped trying. After nearly 30 hours of agonizing isolation, the efforts of the dying man finally paid off. The next morning, he heard a bike stop nearby. It was a young couple admiring the view. With a final explosive burst of energy, Kevin shouted with every atom of his being. They heard him. Help was called. Kevin Diepenbrock was airlifted out of the ravine, treated for his catastrophic injuries, and in 3 weeks was home. His goodbye, recording now an artifact of a miracle. Most people look away from the dark. You're here because you can't. This is a story that proves the most hostile environment on Earth is often the one you feel most comfortable in. Robert Ringo, 67, was a desert hiking expert with decades of experience. On July 17, 2020, he was driving near Joshua Tree National Park when a distinctive rock formation caught his eye. It was supposed to be a short, hour-long detour. Robert brought only the bare essentials, 2 liters of water, no food, and light gear. But a July desert at 5 p.m. is unforgiving. Heat stroke is a constant, invisible threat in the 115-degree Fahrenheit, 46 degrees Celsius temperatures. As he hiked toward the landmark, tragedy struck. He accidentally slipped off a short ledge and landed directly on his left leg. The pain was immediate, crushing, and absolute. His left femur, the largest, strongest bone in the body, was fractured. Robert was instantly rendered completely immobile. Any attempt to move sent excruciating pain that threatened to make him pass out, a certain death sentence in that heat. He was in an invisible spot, hidden from view. He shouted for help, but there was no one for miles.
Help! Help!
There was no cell service. His 2 liters of water, enough for a short hike, was barely a few sips in the extreme dehydration of the desert air. The sun rose on the next day, and Robert had barely any water left. He felt the insidious advance of dehydration. It starts subtly, then consumes everything. He knew he was dying. He turned on his camera, his voice dry and strained, recording what he thought was his final statement. He describes the accident, the broken leg, and the reality of his predicament. Then he says the words that truly convey his terror. It's the first time in my life I've ever experienced no saliva.
It's the first time in my life I've ever experienced no saliva. I landed right on my left hip. I can't move it for the pain. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get up, but I'm sure they'll be out looking for me tonight.
He was being baked alive, and his body was shutting down. The dangers multiplied. Venomous rattlesnakes and coyotes also called this desert home. But Robert Ringo was not ready to be a casualty. He remembered he had sent his location to his son, Ryan, before heading out. Rescue efforts were underway, but finding him in the labyrinth of the park would be nearly impossible. Robert knew he had to move. He stabilized his fractured leg as best he could, gathered his strength, and began the impossible. He started crawling backwards with his arms, a couple of feet a minute, exposed to the brutal desert sun. It was an excruciating, inhuman pace, but he pushed on, even eating bitter juniper berries along the way to slow the dehydration. He crawled throughout the entire day, through the brutal heat and the coming night, driven by the knowledge that he had to be seen. He had to reach an open plateau. He was a broken man, crawling on the planet's surface, fighting for every single inch of life. By 11 p.m. that night, he finally reached a visible spot. He collapsed, exhausted, waiting for the dawn. Robert Ringo spent 40 hours stranded in the desert. The sun is now rising on the second full day since his fall. He is in a visible spot, but his body is broken, his water is gone, and time is running out. Will he be seen before the desert heat claims him? The answer, thankfully, was yes. Robert's desperate struggle paid off. Search and rescue, using the coordinates he sent his son, finally spotted him from a helicopter lying prone on the plateau. He was critically injured, but alive. His final goodbye message became a powerful reminder of his resilience. Paula, Kevin, Robert, 3 people who recorded their epitaphs, only to live to record the next chapter. These stories prove that sometimes the true crime isn't who died, but how fiercely the human spirit refuses to give up. If these stories left you breathless, hit that like button now. Let us know in the comments below. If you had one final message to record, what would you say? We dig up the mysteries most people look away from. You're here because you can't. Don't miss our next deep dive into the shadows of the unexplained. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss a thing. Click here for our video on strange disappearances that defy logic. We'll see you next time in the dark. This is bone chilling.